All right, welcome back. The issue of insecurity continues to be an issue that Nigerians are still very much concerned about as it affects their lives directly, particularly even here in the FCT where issues seem to be escalating. Today we'll be taking a look at the recent developments as regards insecurity, the fight against insecurity, and the various dynamics and some new aspects to what we're seeing now in the fight, and also from the other end talking about those who seek to take or infringe upon the human rights of Nigerians. I've been joined now in the studio by Professor Femi Olufunmilade. He's the Director, Buratai Center for Contemporary Security Affairs, Igbinedion University, Okada, Edo State. Good afternoon and welcome, sir.
My pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you. All right, I'm going into it without any too much preamble. I'm sure there's no one more aware than you of the situation of things currently. I want to start with a particular aspect that is seemingly new before we delve into other aspects. The issue of crowdfunding. And now when people are kidnapped, in the past, if you don't, when someone is kidnapped, the family goes around trying to sell off properties, trying to do all sorts to raise money to pay ransom and get their loved ones freed. But recently, particularly in the case of the late Nabiha and her family, we saw something where people went online and started seeking for donations. So much so that even a friend of the former minister contributed about 50 million naira to that plea. What's your take on this aspect of kidnapping that has, or possible reactions to kidnapping that has surfaced? And what do you think it means for continuation of the fight against insecurity?
It's unfortunate that we found ourselves in this situation. But I must be frank with you that he who wears the shoes knows where it ought. God forbid, if it's any of us, we will be praying that all efforts be made to raise the money that the kidnappers are asking for. If it's our loved ones, we will be seeking for help because we want them back alive. And that is all the more so because we have been left to our fate in this country. If we were in a country where the security agencies are up to the task and there is that assurance that they will get our loved ones back home safely, we trust in their capability, then we wouldn't be so agitated, begging everyone to contribute money. Most of those who have been affected, they don't have faith in the Nigerian security. They don't have faith in them. And they believe they just have to resort to self-help in order to get their loved ones back home alive. Well, there are those who feel is an ugly trend that constitutes an incentive to kidnapping as an industry in quotes. But until the government, through its security agencies, can prove to Nigerians that it has risen up to the occasion by doing all that is necessary to protect us. If there are abductions and the kidnappers are asking for money, people will continue to search for money to pay to gain their freedom.
It's a sad situation there. But whenever the thoughts about the government come up, some persons will say there is usually this talk as though the government is incapacitated. And the other day, the president released a statement. This was not directly about security, but the issue in Ibadan with the explosion. And there were, will I say, condemnations on the president's language, which was that, he spoke as though he was an activist. And people say that there should be a difference from when you are in office and when you are trying to get into office. So the question now is, to the layman out there who is wondering, why can't government simply end this? Why can't they say, go here, bring these people back. We've seen them trace others who've spoken out, perhaps against the ruling class and so on. So, in your opinion, what do you think is the obstacle here that is really stopping the government and the security forces from stamping out this issue, at least to a large an extent as possible?
Well, I think the fact that this ugly trend has become endemic and appears it's intractable shows that in spite of the huge resources deployed into securing this country over the years, in this year's budget, I think defense and internal security alone took over 2 trillion. And all this is happening. We're not talking of trillions deployed in the past. It clearly is a pointer to something that we now have crime entrepreneurs within the security agencies. I'm not trying to tar all our security people with the same dark brush, but a situation where the more we spend, the less we get calls for soul searching, and that should begin from within the security agencies, especially in a situation where when these heinous crimes are perpetrated, it is extremely rare for you to see the culprits being apprehended. All we get is sometimes a few people are recovered or rescued. And when you do your background check into how they were rescued, you discover that they have also paid ransom. The Nabina case, the other 5 sisters have been released, and the initial reports we read, it was like it was the Nigerian security agencies that rescued them. But insider accounts have shown that they actually paid ransom. It was where they were dumped, and they were trying to find their way to town that they were picked up by the security agencies, led by their own family members. So a situation where we rarely have instances of those who committed these crimes being arrested, being apprehended, being taken to court. And we hearing that, oh, they've been sentenced to so number of years, or they are to be executed because they kill also. And when you kill deliberately within the province of law of Nigeria, you are also going to be killed. But have you ever seen anybody being tied to a stake, or anybody even being sentenced? It's very, very rare. And but the Bible says, because sentence against an evil deed is not speedily executed, therefore the acts of men are fully set in them to do evil. It's in the book of Ecclesiastes. So when there is no consequence for wrongdoing, for crime of this magnitude, that is becoming a major industry where you can just make hundreds of millions for doing nothing other than bringing innocent Nigerians into your custody. And the incentive for it to continue and continue is there, because you get away with it. So how do they get away with it? It's because there is connivance somewhere. And I say that because when these people get kidnapped, as soon as they take them to a safe haven, in quote, in the bush, they will tell them, on your phones, start making calls. Who do you think is going to help you with ransom? And calls will be made over and over. Sometimes for months, people are kept there, and they keep tracking progress about fundraising. Why is it so difficult for our security agencies to follow the trace of those calls? It's a no-brainer that it is an easy thing to do. And then plan a rescue operation, especially in the case of those people that were abducted in a train. I think it's over a year ago.
Yes.
And then they were there, a woman on NTA featured with me this morning. And she was there with her husband and children for over 4 months. Calls were being made to and fro until they paid ransom and they got rescued. So why is it difficult for our security agencies to track the calls, identify the location where they are kept, and then plan an operation to rescue them? Why is it so difficult? You know, so that is to tell you that there is more to what we are seeing than meets the eyes. The brazenness of it. Sometimes, the other day they attacked a military estate and they carted people away. And we have not heard anything about people who did that being arrested, or, you know. Sometimes they even abduct security operatives. You saw the case of the customs officer who was recently released, you know. So the president needs to embark on separating the sheep from the goats in our major security agencies, so that you will have those who are credible, who are committed at the helm of affairs. And one way of doing that is to ensure that when I cite an instance, like what happened in Plateau, look at the sheer number of people killed. Look at the sheer number of communities, about 23 of them, that were destroyed in the Christmas Eve attack on Plateau communities. And a lot of calls, according to those who survived it, were being made to security agents while these people were attacking them. And no help was forthcoming. And up to this moment, I've not heard that a single person among the attackers had been arrested. In that kind of scenario, I expect the president, who is the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, to make heads roll. The security commanders, or directors, or state commission, as the case may be, whatever their nomenclature, those who are responsible for security in that sector, in the military, in the police, in the secret service, they should be made to face the music. Some of them, if they need to be court-martialed, they should be court-martialed. If it is incompetence, let them get sacked. If it is connivance, let them get duly punished. It is when you start doing that, that others will sit up. Because I can't employ you as a security guard in my house, and every day they will break into my house, cut away my valuables, and you tell me you are doing your best. I raise your salary, I bring in more CCTV camera for you, I have dogs, and then at the end of the day, they still manage to come in and take away my valuables. There is no special need for me to find where the problem is. I already know that I am asking a cat to guard my mice. You know, it's like you employ a cat to start guarding your rats. So then you need to get the cat out of the way and put maybe a better cat or something more reliable. So that is the situation. There is a huge, the security architecture is hugely compromised. Everybody high school students, kindergarten, they are asking questions. Why is it that they cannot get the people who have been doing all this? Daddy, we are always watching news of people who are kidnapped. We hear it all the time. But why is it that they don't get those people? Is it that they don't want to get them?
Right, just to continue, you've made mention of something very interesting, which is that we expect to see punishment that if you kill, as the law says or as the law allows, you should also receive that punishment. But for some reason, it seems as though those who commit the most heinous crimes have the most leniency. We hear speculations or talks like they are repentant Boko Haram terrorists, they are repentant bandits, and so on. I wonder, what do you think is responsible for that extreme willingness to forgive such situations? Because when we see petty crimes, Nigeria still has a problem of jungle justice, where you see someone who stole maybe something as little, something as little as that, and people gather, they get tires and they burn a human being alive for very little issues. But when a hardened terrorist who is known to have killed multiple people, perhaps raped, perhaps kidnapped and done all sorts, suddenly we get these mentions of let us forgive them, let us bring them back into society, sometimes trying to integrate them into communities where they've murdered or killed the residents who are now internally displaced. So what do you think is responsible for that, and how do you think it could change so that we know that there are some lines you shouldn't cross, and when you do, it's almost unforgivable, if not outright?
I think there are instances where a reintegration effort of people caught in crimes like terrorism can be justifiable. For instance, the Boko Haram sect had some people in their fold as fighters who were forcefully conscripted, especially underaged children, boys that were not more than 16 years, 15 years, whose villages were ransacked, and they were, just as the way they forcefully take away girls, they also forcefully take away boys with the aim of using them to fight. You've heard of child soldiers. It's a phenomenon that happens anywhere in the world. There is some form of rebellion. And then if such boys are arrested, maybe in the theater of battle, somehow they became prisoner of war of sorts, it's only rational to see how to rehabilitate them, because they were not willing fighters. They are underage, they are kids. Or you see a number of girls abducted with the aim of using them as suicide bombers. You then need to go and reorientate them, rehabilitate them, and then reintegrate them back into society. It's just the right thing to do in that particular instance. But in a situation where you are dealing with adults who willingly joined the sect, who have been brainwashed, who believe in the ideology of the Boko Haram sect, that theirs is to conquer Nigeria and introduce their own brand of Sharia and lord it over everybody, such people should be made to face the music. The onus is not on anyone to say, let's go and rehabilitate them. For what? You do that, then you are suspect yourself. I remember that Senator Ali Ndume, who is from Borno State, was vehemently opposed to that idea of rehabilitating terrorists, grown-up people. He opposed it and said that it was unfair to the memory of those who have been killed by these same people, that these are people that are meant to face justice. So we need to make a distinction when we are talking about giving amnesty to some terrorists. If they are underage children who don't know their right from their left, that were forced into the crime of terrorism, then as a responsible society, it is incumbent on us to see how we can reorientate them, debrief them, reorientate them, rehabilitate them, and reintegrate them back into society.
And this works?
When they never were willing fighters in any case, they themselves, you see some of them crying that they didn't want to join, that he was in the farm with his father. One day they killed his father and they took him away. So, but they've told them that if you don't do this, we're going to kill you. Some of them actually willingly surrendered when they were all given opportunities. So whenever they had the opportunity to run, they run. You know. But that should not include the heartless criminals that know what they are doing. That will not help anybody. It will only compound the situation. And a situation where those who do not deserve such are enjoying it. A lot of criminals being, pampered with Nigerian money, fed with Nigerian money, quartered with Nigerian money, and all that. Those who are doing that should face interrogation themselves. All right, they may be the insider collaborators that we are talking about, that are trying to release their foot soldiers under the guise of granting them amnesty.
All right, just to cut in there, there's, I guess this is widely referred to as a political solution. I'm wondering why it's, it's so, or it exists so much in these situations. We're taking a look at the correctional service the other day, and there are thousands of inmates there who sometimes are being held awaiting trial, and then the period of time they wait for trial actually extends past whatever possible sentence could come for the particular crime they are charged with. My point being here is that we hardly see political solutions on the micro level, on the low level. So why is it always such a ready option? The point I'm making is, like I said before, if someone is seen stealing a loaf of bread, once he's caught, he has to face the law. Nobody says, well, the economy, this or that. Immediately he's in the process, or sorry, he's in the system, so to speak.
Younger justice.
Yes. I'm even talking now of when the authorities are involved. As long as the police has held you, they take you to the correctional service and you spend years there and so on and so forth. So I'm wondering, is it because of the scale that option is available when it comes to issues of terrorism and banditry and so on? Shouldn't it just be the case of follow the law? We know that this happened, but we have to follow the law. I'm wondering, why isn't it so straightforward in these issues?
I am trying to get what you are trying to say.
What I mean is now, sir, when you spoke about rehabilitating people into the society.
Underaged. Who are forced conscripts.
Yes. But the question I'm putting now is that if it were other crimes, they would still go through the system if it means, if there's a younger system for, for younger persons, I mean, rather than the main prisons and correctional centers. So I'm just wondering, why the option exists in this. Or take, for instance, if an underage person was caught with a loaf of bread and he did it because his mom was hungry or starving or thereabout, that compassion is hardly ever there for little crimes. And I'm just wondering why it's always there when it's this broader issues.
You see, you need to put things in their proper context.
All right.
There are juvenile correctional services, and I don't think the aim is to keep them there forever. The aim is to actually correct their ways, and they receive parole, which means they can go home. We are watching you. We hope you are not going to, become a recidivist A recidivist is someone who commits a crime and then or an offense, and after he's been pardoned or he's on parole, he goes back into it. So I don't think our legal system doesn't have a human face when it comes to juveniles.
Right.
It does. The aim is not to destroy the underaged or the juvenile. It's usually to reorientate them. So it also applies to them. The reason why this may have occurred, the issue of amnesty for some may be on a larger scale, is because of the sheer number of kids involved, underage people. And some people felt we cannot just treat these underage people the way we treat the adults who know exactly what they are doing. And also, most of the underaged are forced conscripts. Among the adults too, there are forced conscripts. There are forced conscripts. If you are just about 5 and you are in the middle of about 2,000 hardened terrorists, and all eyes are on you, and they are training you how to shoot gun, and they are asking you to lead a campaign. They put you, go crawl on your knees, crawl forward, go and spy on that front there. You dare not say no. If you do, they will summarily terminate you. So even such adults who can prove that they were forced with evidence, the day they came for them and how they forced them out, maybe the wife, the children, the neighbors were there when they took them away, even those ones deserve some form of pardon and rehab. They are victims too. They are victims who are lucky to be alive.
All right. So sorry to cut in there, just to manage the time. I'd like to also quickly talk about other aspects of this. I recall speaking with a Peace Corps commander the other day, and their own thinking is that every extra money that is always allocated to security is money that could have been spent in another sector that would prevent a future criminal or a prospective criminal. I was talking about education, talking about fixing the economy. Now, I'd like to get your own perspective. To what extent do these things affect what we are currently seeing today? And when people say, I interviewed a number of political candidates, and they always speak about having kinetic and non-kinetic approaches to insecurity. And some persons believe that while they are fighting what is currently existing, they need to be uprooting the problem. So I'd like to get your thoughts as to that bigger issue. And how
you see, terrorism is a crime. Banditry is a crime. Kidnapping is a crime. Sociologists or criminologists will want to go beyond the surface of the crime committed to interrogate the subterranean factors that make people embark on a life of crime. Economic factors are usually cited in some cases, that maybe some people have suffered the privation and they are very, very angry with society and they want to avenge and they don't care, Then in that situation, you can think of, okay, if the economy were made to be better, you maybe provide some welfare schemes. If you are not employed, you are entitled to maybe so amount every month as your unemployment stipend. So at least that will help you not to be hungry. If you are not employed and you are homeless, the local government will provide local council flat where you can have a room to yourself and things like that. Those things exist in other countries. And the reason why they exist is that they know that if you allow people to be on the street, hungry and jobless, those who have jobs and have homes will not be safe. A place like the United States where guns are freely owned, you can imagine the crisis that will follow. But then, in our own context, the non-kinetic approach they talk about has to do with government. The government should create, it's in the constitution that the duty of government is to pursue a welfareist society. That is what is in Nigerian 1999 constitution as amended. An economy in which there will be no extreme of poverty, or no, a situation where some people will be highly opulent and some people will not even have food to eat. Our constitution frowns at that. So that is the non-kinetic approach. If you have a society that has a human face, where if you are not having a job, and it's not because you are lazy, but a job is not yet there, you can, even if it is to have food stamp, you go to designated shop, food malls, you go and take something for every week, and you have a place to rest your head. Then it will be a disincentive. Maybe many of those who are into kidnapping now will not be into kidnapping. Many who are into terrorism, perhaps they wouldn't be in terrorism. It's a long-term thing. And for the kinetic approach, there are people that, like the brainwashed terrorists, who believe they are actually fighting to bring about a caliphate. And therefore, they can even be comfortable people. But that is what they believe in. There is no amount of non-kinetic approach that will help change their hearts. It's a question of making sure you up your game and you are one step ahead of them in using fire for fire. That is the way to tackle that one. So when we want to talk of kinetic or non-kinetic approach, we must disaggregate the various types of security threats and see which one can be appropriately tackled with a kinetic or a non-kinetic approach. If you are talking of urban banditry, whereby people are inside their vehicles, some Ogbewe are molesting them, removing their wristwatch, taking their phones, maybe in a hold-up, you know that those are street urchins that probably have nothing to do. If they are usefully engaged, they wouldn't be doing what they are doing. So that kind of thing, it's possible to stop it through a non-kinetic approach. Because if you are then caught doing that, you then need to do some explaining why you are still doing that. You know, there will be job centers where if you don't have a job, they profile you. What can you do? Even if it is manual labor, they will call you. And while you are waiting to be called, they will be giving you something. So the day they call you that there is a job somewhere, that is the day your dependence on the handouts they give will end. So if you are caught somewhere stealing or pickpocketing, then you are going to face the music because you have no reason to do that.
Fair enough. These are very lofty ideals, and I hope, I do know that they would make a difference. I hope they get to the right quarters. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming on the program.
My pleasure.